Hey, sister girls, it's Dylesia, and welcome back to another episode of Mother Daughter Trauma Recovery TV. So, if you are a block spinner, welcome back. If you're not, the block is hot. So, what are you waiting for? Definitely subscribe to this channel, share this video, like, comment, all of the things, okay? Because every Monday I'm dropping real, substantial advice about how to navigate life if you have a toxic mom, if you have a traumatic relationship with her. So today's video is no different. You're going to get some amazing tips. And this subject is actually about how we can introduce our partner to our mom for the first time if she's toxic. So, whew, all right. Are you nervous? I'm nervous. I'm not really nervous because I've already done this, but that's why I'm here to show you how you can do it based on how I would have done things differently, some incorporation of how I already did things. So let's get into that. Let's start with Dylesia. How did you introduce Nigel? Some of y'all know that that's my husband. If you've been following me for a while, not on this platform, but on Instagram, then you know that my husband is named Nigel. We have been married for a little over 7 years. So our anniversary was in August. As I'm filming this video, it is now November 18th. So like 2 days from our anniversary, which is August 16th. So it will be 1 year. What am I saying? It will be 7 years, 2 months, and 2 days. Y'all, I can't count, I can count these ducats, okay? But that's about it. But no. So Nigel and I have been married for a bit over 7 years. We have two beautiful daughters together. They are about 17 months old, about to be 18 months on December 3rd. You might actually hear them, or maybe you don't because I have my mic on and it's noise canceling. But either way, we're going to get on going with this video. And we have been married, but we've known each other for a really, really long time. So Nigel and I met when I was a senior in high school and he was in his, I want to say, second or third year of college. We worked at the same grocery store and he happened to come back on Christmas break and I thought he was a new employee. So I'm over there trying to teach him how to bag, because I just have had this teaching spirit inside of me for my whole life, right? So I just wanted to help him out. But no, so he was like, quickly told me that he was not new. But years later after that, I would say it was about when I was 20 when we really started to seriously talk. We were on and off for a while, and eventually we ended up getting married because here we are today. Got married when I was about 26 and I'm 33 now. So, yep. Um, so anywho, how did I introduce him to my mom? So I didn't. So that's the thing. I graduated from undergrad, and this was many years after we met. I would say it was at least 4 or 5 years after we had met because we met in 2007, and I graduated from undergrad in 2011. So that was a while. It was about 5 years. Y'all know I can't count. 4 years? Yeah, 4 years. So it was about 4 years, and I had a huge party. And the party was at my mom's house. We're not even going to talk about all of the things that had to happen for me to have that party. I had to pay for everything. It was a mess, okay? Because your parents are supposed to celebrate you, right? And it was not celebratory. I definitely had to put some elbow grease and some begging on getting that party. But either way, I had a party and my mom cooked everything. And we invited, I say we, but I invited my friends from school, and Nigel happened to be one of the people who came to the party. He came with his two brothers, and that's where him and my mom first met. So you could tell he was a little shy because we really weren't on the accord that we on now, and he was still, just trying to figure out how he wanted to navigate love and things like that. So it wasn't really a substantial meeting. She was passing out food. He passed by with his plate. He told her the food was good. That was the extent of it. So from then on, Nigel always knew my mom as the lady who makes good fried fish. That's literally what he knew her as. So whenever I would bring her up, and mind you, like at the time where we met, I hadn't really come to terms with the fact that me and my mom had a toxic relationship. I don't think I knew what to call it. I don't think I thought about like how people's relationships with their moms were. I definitely thought a lot about how people's relationships with their dads were because my dad wasn't in the house and he was also older. He still is older, right? So he's alive. He is 83 years old and I'm 33. So my dad is 50 years, older than I am. So I thought a lot about that, but I didn't think a lot about like my mom because she was there. And I think at that time for me, that was all she was supposed to do, right? So all of the negativity and the verbal abuse and the, mental and emotional manipulation and the psychological, like, just turmoil that I was facing, the spiritual upheaval, all of the things I hadn't quite gotten to a point in my maturity and especially in my mental health development because I didn't really understand. I knew nothing about that at that time. I hadn't really gotten to that point where I was even labeling. I wasn't in a position to label it. I had decided that she was insatiable. That was something that I decided. And we can talk, about that later. That's not really the topic of this video. But I made some slight conclusions, but I hadn't really decided fully on, what we were. So when he met my mom, it just was what it was. Now, as we got closer and he began to, hear stories about her and things like that, he wouldn't really believe it because for him, it was like that old lady who made the good fried fish. And granted, my mom is not that old, but like, she's an older lady to him. But he just couldn't fathom it because for him, his first time of meeting her was always going to be equated with the fact that she gave him some good fried fish. Okay. A way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And my mom had gotten that man. Okay. So it would then take years and years of him witnessing not really what happened because I mean he wasn't really in my text messages and he didn't understand. You know what I'm saying? Because when you have a toxic relationship with your mom, they can say nothing but say a little bit of something and it gets to you because there's been years and years of buildup that has happened over time. So sometimes when you're trying to explain that to somebody else, they truly just don't see how what is being said or done is bad. And also, moms are on their best behavior when they're around other people too. So that was another thing that I had to contend with is that she wasn't ever going to really show Nigel the side of her that I knew was there, the side of her that my sister knew was there. At the time, my brother had passed away, but of course, it would have been a side that he also was aware, even in the fact that he did not want to admit it, but he was aware that that side existed. So it was hard to, and I won't even say convince him because I wasn't really trying to convince him, but I needed support. And it was really hard to get him to support me when he didn't even understand, or I would honestly flat point blank say believe what was happening. So that's why I want to make sure that if you are introducing your partner to your mom for the first time, that unlike what I was able to do, you are able to take advantage of the opportunity that this person has no preconceived notions about them and not manipulate their experience with your mom, but just let them know what, based on your experience with her, has been historically what you faced, what conclusions you have made about that, and then how you need them to support you. Because ultimately, your partner is supposed to be a supportive person for you. They are not supposed to be running off with your family and, leaving you in the dust and things like that. They are your person. And again, we're not controlling their relationships with anybody, but we're just telling them, hey, this person, you're free to develop your own notions and judgments, but this is what I need you because this is how they impact me. So I want you to ask yourself. Now, I would say there are a couple of different scenarios you could be in. You could be in a scenario where you are not forewarning your partner about how your mom is. And I want you to question yourself about that. And I'm gonna give you a line of questioning that I need you to ask yourself. You could also be in a point of view where you're like, heck yeah, I'm forewarning. And I'm trying not to cuss up here, y'all, because I don't have an editing, like I don't do editing right now. This is all filmed in one take. So I don't want to do something that YouTube might like cancel, and I want to be able to bleep it, and an editor would bleep it. So I'm just gonna say heck. But you're like, yeah, I'm definitely going to let them know how my mom is. There is also a line of questioning, a shorter one, but also a line of questioning that I want you to ask yourself. So if you're in the bucket where you're like, I'm not forewarning, I want you to drop a comment for me. Like, let me know that, Dylesia, I'm not convinced. And then I want you to also respond back to the comment after you hear these questions under your comment and let me know if you're convinced now. So the first question, if you are saying I am not forewarning my partner, I want you to ask yourself, am I not forewarning my partner because I want them to validate my conclusion that I have made about my mom? So basically, I'm going to let this person walk in blindly And if they gather the same assumptions that I have gathered, which I ain't even going to say that right now, I'm going to say that in a second. But if they gather the same conclusions that I have, then that means I'm right. So the reason that that's not fair to you, and that's what I was about to say, but then I got ahead of myself. The reason that's not fair to you is you have much more context, okay? You have known your mom for your whole life, or at least a majority of your life. If you just met her, some portion of your life, you know her more than this person do, though. So it's not fair for you to test your judgment of her by somebody who's only going to have a very, very, very small encounter with her. Okay. So that's number one, is like, if we're trying to validate the conclusion that we've come to, you can't do that because it's not fair. But then also, you can't do that because you are a different person than everybody. That's why we can't go by what our siblings' experiences with our parents are. They could have been in the same exact house and accepted, the same exact experiences and like interpreted them in a different way. They are in a different phase in their growth journey and their self-awareness journey. Some of them are not ever going to become self-aware. So you can't compare how you perceive somebody with how somebody else perceives them. That's your sibling, that's your partner, that's anybody. So you're literally setting yourself up for disappointment if you're waiting on them to validate how you perceive your mom, okay? Number two, am I not wanting my partner to think that I'm not family oriented? So y'all, this is like this is one that hits deep. I have been accused of not being family oriented so many times. Nigel has never done it, but people have, because there's the assumption this person is estranged from their mom. They, are somewhat estranged from their mother-in-law. They're estranged from other people in their family that are not healthy. And granted, they don't give me that credit. They just say they estranged. She must not care about family. And I remember one day, clear as day, I had to break down to someone who had said that. And I let them know that I'm not family oriented. I just don't fool with people who are not healthy for me. And they were just like, I get what you're saying, but it's also your family, because you're going to hear that a lot. But I also said, well, you don't know how it impacts me. Until you are in a position where you're going crazy, you're punching holes in the wall, you're screaming, you're fighting, like, you don't know how this is impacting me. So until you're in my shoes, I don't think you can understand why I've chosen not to be family oriented with those people. However, I am extremely family oriented. Anyone who really, really knows me knows that. They know that, like, my friends are my family, obviously my daughters, my husband. You just get to pick and choose your family. And that's something that I will always believe and always stand strongly on. So if you're in a position where you don't want your partner, to be afraid that, like, hey, am I about to build this life with someone that really doesn't care about building a life, or doesn't value relationships, or, just will go cut people off, or distance themselves from people, or label them toxic if they don't do, what they think they should do. If that's something you're afraid of, that is a conversation that you have to have, okay? So by the end of this, I want to make sure that I'm convincing you that you need to have a conversation with your partner. We don't want them to walk in blindly through the door and just not know anything about the history of you and your mom. The third thing I want you to ask yourself is, am I not asking or telling them because I don't want them to think that I am trying to manipulate their opinion of her? So obviously there's a way that you can word your telling of the context of you and your mom's relationship that will let your partner know, I'm not trying to manipulate you. And you could explicitly say that. You could definitely say, like, I'm afraid that you will accept this as manipulative information. You can certainly say that if that's how you're feeling. That is some very upfront and healthy and effective communication. Or you could just, let them know that I want you to form your own judgments about my mom, but in my experiences, she says things that make me feel hurt. She makes comments that are divisive between me and people that I actually care about, and might do that to you and I. You can give them some context and let them know that it's just based on your experience. It doesn't have to be their experience. In fact, you can even let them know she usually doesn't act like this around people that are not close to her. She acts like this because I am her daughter. She acts like this to my siblings. She acts like this to, other family members, or maybe nobody else in our family experiences her in this way besides me. You can say that because you are entitled to have your own perception of someone. You are entitled to sum up the experiences that you've had with them and recognize that they're not healthy for you. And no one else in this world has to feel that way besides you. So I want you to ask yourself that. Now, if you are on the other end of the spectrum and you're like, I'm definitely telling, I want you to ask yourself, am I trying to influence? So if I share this information with my partner and they're like, well, okay, I hear you. I'm here to support you. But I also would really love to meet your mom and be given the chance to develop my own assumptions. If they say that, are you going to be pissed off? Because if you are, then chances are you are doing something called tribalism. And tribalism is exactly how it sounds, where two people are on opposing ends and they're trying to get people on their side. Hey, girl, such and such, or hey, boy, blah, blah, blah. And just trying to make sure that people view the situation, the person, the way that they do. So you have to make sure that the way you're going about this, the reasons behind it are all pure. They're not something that is going to set you up or, cause you to question yourself on the end of why am I not forewarning. And they're also not something that's going to make you resentful for this person if they don't experience or see the world in the way that you do. So we have to, first of all, clarify what our reasons are and purify them, okay? So that's number one. There's the questions you can ask yourself or work through with your therapist. So now we're going to go to the tips that I have for you. So if you are introducing your partner to your mom for the first time and vice versa, I want you to be prepared for her to be on her best behavior. We talked a little bit about that a few statements ago. You know your mama, and she don't be acting up when it's company, okay? If she is anything like my mama, she know how to hold it together, okay? You be like, girl, you couldn't hold it together like this for your whole life. But she knows how to hold it together when she has an audience. So I want you to be prepared that even once you have this conversation, because we are having a conversation, okay? I have convinced you. You told me in the comments that I didn't. Now you know that I did. So you gave me another comment to tell me that I did convince you. You already have had the conversation with your partner in your mind. As you're watching this video, you've already planned how you're going to have it. But you also have to let your partner know and let yourself know. She probably will not act like this when you're around, or she will act like it and you won't notice it, but I will feel it. So that's number one. Be on preparation for her to be on her best behavior. Number two, I want you to be prepared to be potentially put in a position where you are an island, okay? And this is why you have to have the conversation with your partner before the event, because you are at risk for being alone when you go with them. So this video, give you some context. It is November, as I'm filming this. But, even though I'm preparing people to introduce their parent or their partner rather to their parent, their mother for the first time for the holidays, whether it be Thanksgiving or Christmas, you could be introducing your partner to your mom for a different occasion. But for the sake of Christmas or Thanksgiving, there can be so many people around and you feel absolutely alone because your person who you came there with doesn't really understand what's going on. They're not picking up on the things that you're picking up on. They are falling under your mom's spell like so many other people do. So that's why you have to let them know that there is a chance that you will love my mom because there are so many desirable qualities about her. She is not all bad. These are the great things about her. And that's going to help the conversation not feel so much like you're labeling her as toxic, and more so that you just have a very well-rounded view of her. But you have summed it up to mean that even despite all these positive qualities, the negative ones hurt me too much. So you want to make sure they know so that they don't run the risk of you being just outside the club, like Chris Brown said. You outside the club and you hating because you just looking like, I knew they was going to fall for it. I knew it. So you have to let them know that even if they love your mom, please don't leave me behind. That's a conversation I had to have with Nigel. So ours was a little bit different because it wasn't always that I was getting left behind. It was more so that he felt like he didn't belong. So my mom is she can be cordial, but she's also not a conversationalist at all. My sister is, in my experience, could be a little rude. And she was definitely rude to Nigel every time that he was around her. So you would have my mom who wasn't really saying much, my sister who was rude, and then him just like, what the heck is going on? You know, these are your people. You belong to them. So I'm the lonely person and you are with them. And I had to explain to him one day, like, no, honey, if you alone, know that I'm alone. So we need to be together in this. And that's why you have to have the proactive conversation to make sure that you are not going to be an island. I also want you to have a code word or a phrase to say, like, we need to get up out of here, okay? And that can be, we need to get up out of here for good. We need to get up out of here for a moment because I need to take a breath of fresh air. I'm triggered. You can have a code word for that. You know, any of those things so that your partner is aware that you're sending distress signals and they need to respond to them. Because, like I said before, your partner is your person. They're not your family's first. They're yours first, especially if y'all are going to join together, leave and cleave and become one. They're yours, okay? Not from a standpoint of possession, but from a standpoint of support. So you have to prepare them for the fact that you are probably going to become uncomfortable, triggered, whatever we want to call it, while you're in this space. And they need to be on the lookout for an ear tug, uh, you grabbing your phone, putting it to your ear and pretending like you're talking to somebody so you can walk up out that door, okay? They need to be prepared for something of that nature. So prepare them with the code words, okay? I also, lastly, want you to make sure that you have scheduled a debriefing session. If you haven't done that and you are more of a passive communicator than an assertive one, which is probably very, very common. A lot of you watching this video are going to relate to that, and I have been there too. As you can see now, I'm a very assertive communicator. It has taken a lot of time to get to that point. I once upon a time used to be passive, and I would have to set myself up to talk about difficult subjects by preparing before whatever situation happened that was going to be difficult and needed to be discussed happened. So if I were in your shoes, I would let my partner know while we're having that conversation that Dylesia has convinced you to have that, hey, let's talk about this, you know, how Thanksgiving dinner, how Christmas dinner, how whatever went while we are riding away from it. If y'all have driven in separate cars, can I call you while we're on the road? Whatever the case may be, I want you to have it penciled in on both of y'all's schedules before you even get to the meeting that y'all are going to talk about how the meeting went. This will be absolutely perfect if y'all had a therapy session. I realize a lot of people do not do therapy before they're married, but you know, you also could be talking to your partner and meeting, you know, helping them meet your mom for the first time while you are already married. Maybe they haven't met them and they are your spouse already. Either way, regardless of the situation, it would be great if y'all could debrief in therapy. But also, we want to make sure we can talk about tough subjects without a therapist being present too. So I want to make sure if that is a route that you go, that you also talk to your partner at least briefly about how you're feeling, what you noticed, what you experienced, and vice versa. And that's just you being proactive and making sure that your feelings have a space to be let out. Because if not, what's going to happen is you're going to want to talk, but then you're not going to talk because you're going to be afraid that they didn't see things the way you did and that you might sound crazy. So if we set ourselves up, then they already expecting to talk. They might actually be like, hey, what about that talk that you wanted to have? And then you're kind of you forced yourself to deal with your emotions and be responsible. That's, you know, one of the greatest tips that I could ever offer somebody is, first of all, we are responsible for our own emotional health, right? But a lot of times, in order for you to do that, you are going to have to put yourself in positions where you are forced to make it happen. And that is one of those situations that I'm suggesting right now when you schedule, pencil in a conversation before the meeting even happens. So those are the tips that I have for you. Definitely implement them. Let me know in the comment section below once you implement them how it went. And I cannot wait to talk to you next time, sister. All right, bye-bye.